This is Sylvia with Odyssey of Enlightenment, and I'm here with another episode of My Awakening Story, and we're here with IemR.I.C.H. IemR.I.C.H, could you explain your name and the acronyms that it stands for and where it came from?
It's part of my awakening process. It's changed throughout the years, but IemR.I.C.H stands for remembering. Well, when I first got it, was remembering I create happiness, but it's evolved throughout the last few years to realizing I create harmony. It's changed throughout the years. I started out with I am that I am, and it came out of my understanding out of some scriptures that I came across when I was doing research, and I had gone through my cancer and etc. But I'll share more with that later.
Great. So what is your birth name, if you don't mind sharing?
My birth name is Richard, but it's funny because my whole life people called me Rich. So when somebody brought that up, another spiritual individual says, "Oh, I am Rich," and it just kind of like stuck to me again. People started calling me that. So I decided to implement it and share it, and it helps affirm affirmations for the people that call me. Because rich comes in a lot of different ways. It's not about money. It's about abundance, friendship, food. It's just abundance in everything. You're rich in all walks of life, everything.
Right.
No matter what it is.
What are some events that led to your awakening?
I would say, I think the universe has been trying to wake me up since I was a baby, but I guess I was hard-headed. But what really caused it, I would say, was I had cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer inside my spinal cord.
Wow.
And when they pulled the tumor out, it decalcified my brain, which in turn opened me up to the universe. Almost automatically, within days of my surgery, I was talking and communicating with the seventh dimension, and I didn't know what that was at the time. And above, and it just kind of freaked me out because I didn't know what none of this stuff was. So it was just.
And when was that?
Excuse me?
When was that? When did you have surgery?
Back in 2005, and then from 2005 forward, a lot of weird stuff started happening. I didn't know what it was, but the first thing that happened to me was, I came into this depression phase. My body wanted to release a lot of stuff. I didn't know what it was. So I went through like a depression phase at the beginning, and then on 11/11/11, a presence, I felt something within inside of me, and I would say it's just my higher self, literally came into me and just said, whatever I'll express the F word, inside of me, and get the F out, and get the F out and get the F out, and I'm done with you, and I'm done with you. And it just.
Talking to the depression, you mean?
It was, no, I felt something like within me. And on 11/11/11, it was just like, get out of me. I'm done. It's
like
just,
an energy?
Like an energy, like something. I don't know what.
Would it be like a lower vibration, you think?
I would say probably lower aspects of myself, that I was holding on to, or I would say that I was holding on to it. And I guess going through the depression helped me let go of attachments that I was holding on to, things, outcomes, scenarios, etc., from the 3D reality.
Right.
And then my life took a twist for the turn after that 11/11/11, and all kinds, I would say hell broke loose. But at the same time, the universe came through to show the light. It was just like there was ups and downs that started happening real quick, but more ups, more awareness, more consciousness, understanding of there was something greater at work.
Right.
And my eyes were opening up to that.
Wow. Did you come from a religious background? Were you brought up religious in any way?
I was brought up religious Catholic. We went to church. I was baptized, confirmation, etc. But the whole time that I was going to church, I had a disconnect. Um, I felt there was something weird, odd about it. It felt yucky to me, and I didn't know why.
Like off?
No, it just felt dirty. Like
Mm,
something was not right. Like
okay.
I get the like dirt. I feel the I see the image of dirt. Like it was dirty. Like something just didn't feel right. But my whole life since I was a kid, the earth felt wrong to me. Something felt wrong. They used to say there's earth, and then there was a heaven, and then there was a hell, and to me, earth was hell. To me, earth is at the time, at that moment, was hell for me. So when people used to talk about heaven or earth or this or that, to me was just hell. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is hell. I've always felt outcast from everything, and it seemed like people were just bad or things were just wrong and harsh out there. It was just, I seen a lot of negativity growing up. The
Right.
gangs, the violence, the TV news, all of it. Parents arguing, siblings arguing, families not being able to get along together. It's like, what is
Right.
this? What are they, what are you?
At any point, do you feel like that you were tempted into it? Like if you can't beat them, join them type of thing growing up before the awakening?
I would say yes. Um, but during the process of me wanting to get into that stuff, something kept pulling me out of it.
Yeah.
It didn't want to allow me to, how would I say,
Go
get
too deep.
tangled into it. It's like there's a saying in Spanish, puedes andar entre la lumbre y no quemarte. It's like it wanted me inside the fire, but it wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get burned. So it would.
Yeah, I can relate to you. So you can observe it and see how it operates, but not become it. Is that what you mean?
Correct. Not get attached to it, not, get involved, intertangled with it, get into the webs of all that. It's just allowing to be able to literally walk through the fire and not get burned. It's like, it's, they talk about the parting of the river, the ocean, when, well, it's something like that. It's like the energies open up and you're able to move freely and without being harmed by the negativity, the whatever wants to come at you, and just have faith in that. And I trusted in it. The more confidence I came within my body, it seemed like my body became stronger, which allowed me to enter a lot of these places. But at the beginning, as we talk more, things come up from my childhood and being in the family and being in these places, aunts' houses and stuff like that. And there was some dark, dark, dark stuff that I had to deal with, especially when I was left in these places. And I understand why now. It's to get me accustomed to now. It gives me that ability to be able to walk into these places and not be afraid like I was back then. I was able to, I would say, conquer my fears or had to deal with them, confront them at those moments at those times in my childhood. Which led me to today, and gratitude and grateful for these people and these families that I had relationships with. No matter how dark their paths or their environment was, there was always light, and that light always shined through in different ways. Maybe not at that moment or that instant, but with time, everything was, light was brought to it, which awareness, why it was happening, why we were, why I had to go through those situations or outcomes. So
Mhm.
I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for all the experience that I've, gone through, no matter
Do you
how.
feel it's like lessons more, like training? That's what it sounds like. Like being in the like a soldier goes through. I don't even know what they call it, boot camp.
Yes. Well, I mean, I get another image of the Pope Francis. When before he became Pope, there was rumors about the child molesting and the women trafficking and stuff like that. Well, I know there's not a lot of people who know this, but he's been indicted now that he's a Pope, through the world courts and stuff like that, and he was part of that. And when I was asked to support him and pray for him, I was like, how could we pray for somebody that's involved in all that stuff? And they said, well, he needed to go into the fire for him to witness everything so he could bring it out in the court system and bring it all to light. And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
that is like, and I was like, yeah. He says a lot of us had to enter some very dark places,
Yeah.
that made us look like sometimes we were bad people, but
Right.
necessarily we weren't that. We were just learning to integrate certain energy so we could be in those areas and then bring everything to light when it was time for us to do it.
I agree.
So everything and everybody, no matter where they are in life and see the negativity or positivity, it's all happening for a reason, and it's for the greater good of all of us. Without that so-called catalyst negativity, out there, people wouldn't be able to see the positive in life.
Right.
So we had to have that catalyst out there.
Right.
So thank you to what we call negative or bad or ugly or this, because if it wasn't for that, how could we see the truth?
Right.
And the same thing goes for the good. If
Right.
it wasn't good out there, how could we see the bad that's out there? So it's finding that inner balance within ourselves between the good and the bad, and just know that everything in life, it's kind of a lesson. It's kind of remembering who we really are, our authenticity of what we really are, to bring transparency to all aspects of what we are. So I love it. In gratitude about all of it. No matter what's happened or who's came into my life.
Yeah. They're
I
like
thank them.
bridges to bring you to where you are now.
Correct.
So that I love that you said that, because just the Pope himself. So everybody out there watching, me included, you can picture the most dark, in fear person in your life right now, or more than one, because I'm sure there's more than one. I have more than one, relatives, etc. And that means there's hope for them too. Anything is possible, and we don't know the plan because it's so intricately woven. It's so elegant and organized and beyond our perception. Our perception is just a tiny little bit. So you can't see the big game. And then when you elevate higher from up here, you can, oh, okay, I see, the maze, how I had to go left and he had to go right, or she had to go left, whatever. So I love that you brought that up. So hopefully that will give anybody watching hope in their own life, whatever they're experiencing right now, because there's a lot of chaos happening. If you're not diligently maintaining your vibration, you can get caught up in the tornado, and you have to just stay in the center, I've noticed. So a lot of people that were elevating really high are getting caught up in the game, in the illusion, and they're forgetting who they really are. And I feel like we all have to constantly keep reminding each other who we really are, and ourselves.
Yes. And trust that no matter what's happening to us, um, no matter from what we call bad or good, no matter what in that spectrum we're at, know that it's for the greater good of yourself, and that they're trying to get you through an obstacle, no matter where you're at in that. And once you get through the other obstacle, things just open up, and it's just a sense of peace, calmness, and it's like freedom. It feels like you're free of attachment of anything that comes out around. So they could throw anything at you, say anything at you, and it's just like, it just fades away.
You're
And
resilient.
it's crazy because I get an image from when I was young. And again, I grew up in the streets, and I share this story. And this individual is in jail for multiple murders, et cetera, et cetera. I was horse playing with this guy's brother. And I didn't know the individual, the murderer. But I was horse playing, and I was chasing his brother, like following him in a car. His brother sees this, thinks I'm a rival gang member, starts chasing me, cuts me off, like literally cuts me in front, gets out of the car, grabs a crowbar, and I go literally against traffic, and I go around the car because I don't know who the car guy is or what's going on. I'm just
Right.
like in shock. Why is this guy? And my wife's in the car with me. And he grabs this crowbar because that's what he had at the time, and he tries to throw it at me. So 2 weeks later, I ran into my friend and his brother. They were at a car wash, and I walked up to them and said hi, whatever. And he's like, introduced my brother. And I asked the guy the question. I said, I seen you with the crowbar outside, and why weren't you able to throw it? And he's like, something came through me. I just couldn't throw it. I was in shock that I couldn't throw it. He goes, anybody. I go, this is my family. He goes, I see you chasing them. I want to, destroy, stop, whatever I can do to, prevent that.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, something came through me that told me, don't do it, whatever. And I just couldn't move. And this is the thing about when we embody our energies, it seems like it repels negativity.
Right.
Now, at the time, I didn't know this, but I've been shown when we're in our space and we're not in malice or, disharmony, and we enjoy love, the universe puts things, repel things away from us. But when we're in malice, we attract that.
Right.
So depending on where you're at, in your evolution, if you have grudges or anger towards somebody, that energy you're putting out has to come back. And I have a brother-in-law that loves to fight, and you see him going out and fight. And I said, every week, he attracts that. He attracts that. And I'm like, have you learned yet? Like, oh yeah, I'm getting tired of this. He's 50 years old, 45. And I'm like, you're still out there, doing. I'm like, what do you get out of it? But he hasn't learned. He still has that drive within him he says he's trying to prevent fighting, but he's actually got there getting in fights.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
again, it's part of his lesson of growing, but he is stopping as a gang member. He
Mm.
is calming people down in those areas, but
Wow.
he's still getting into it. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been shown that he's some sort of warrior, that he
Mm-hmm.
comes out to literally stop
Right.
these gangs, and he's putting
Right.
gangs on check. Like,
Yeah. You need both.
yeah,
I can relate to your brother-in-law because I have that warrior energy because I had to. I was born in super, super dark circumstances. And now, only recently, in the last year, further awakening, I've learned I have to put down the sword. The fight is over. You don't need to fight anymore. You're more powerful with the sword down. And I was like,
yes,
what?
yes,
That made
yes.
no sense to me. I was triggered because fighting's
I mean,
fun. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. But now it's like, oh, you can catch more flies with honey. And honestly, it's worked out beautifully for me because they don't see you coming. They don't see you coming at all.
yep. I mean, I've been involved a lot with the court systems, and my presence, you could see how everybody starts reacting around. It's just presence tends to shuffle negative energy out of the room or makes them nervous. Or I've been guided to walk into bars just to observe how people react around me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing. It's amazing when your ability to start growing as an empath. We sense everything, we feel everything. So sometimes being around crowds could be very overwhelming. But I notice that the more I clear, the more I harmonize, the more I strengthen my own energy. Even as an empath, I could walk into a casino, I could walk in, I could still have fun, I could still enjoy the day, where most empaths, within the first 15, 20 minutes that they're there, they're done. They got to move out. They got to get away from the people because it could be very overwhelming. And my job has been learning how to increase my strength being in public so I don't get
Could you share,
unbalanced.
like, what is your routine? Do you believe that, do you have a certain routine that you have to practice daily to help you stay in that alignment?
I would say yes, and it's a common routine of every individual out there, and it's your breath. Um, when you meditate, you enter a certain state of consciousness. Understanding when you're in that state of consciousness, what helps you stay in that state of consciousness is your breath. So as you breathe throughout the day, you continue to elevate your frequencies to stay at a certain level. And a lot of times, for example, we're doing yoga, we're doing some sort of meditation in the morning, whatever. That's to help us elevate it. But what happens is throughout the day, people comes at us, and our elevation keeps going down, down. And sometimes we get overwhelmed, we're tired, we're exhausted. etc. Well, learning to keep that energy up is through the breath, and just imagine the energy flowing through you. And then at the same time, I have a tendency of cutting when I come around people. Again, this is getting a little out there. You know, people attach themselves to you, energetic wise. It's not something you could see, feel, or hear, but they do. So I constantly have to be cleaning my energy and chopping those tethers off people, because then they walk away and then you're stuck remembering their problems, their ideas, their troubles, and you're like, and they're draining you. You don't realize that, but the more you think about someone else, you're being drained.
Right.
So the moment you cut that tie, it's like, I let that person go. Now they could go and do whatever they need to do to heal themselves or whatever, you know, universe has in store for them in their path. And I continue to go on my way. Well,
And how do you do that? For anybody listening who would like to do that for themselves, how would you suggest that they do that?
It's just consciously imagining whatever, when they're done communicating with somebody, is just to cut whatever connections that they have with them, you know. So they could imagine a tether, they could imagine any energy field, they could imagine their own aura being strong enough to repel anything that's coming around them. You know, it's just part of some of my methods that I could share in other interviews about grounding and energy work, when it comes to strengthening your aura, strengthening your grounding, anchoring all your different chakras, you know, connecting yourself to source, etc. I mean, these are all processes that help with strengthening. Then you have a inner power supply that once you're aware of everything, then you turn on the inner power supply, which in turn adds a lot more power going through your body. Which, again, there was so much stuff that I was downloaded during this time. So, I mean, this is stuff that we could say for other.
Right. How did you?
Because they could get very.
Right. I agree. Because it's infinite. There's so much.
Yes, there's so much when it comes to our bodies.
Right. How did you get into metaphysical topics? So you go from all of that, then 11 comes. Did you start researching, talking to other spiritual people? How did you start?
I never been one to be on a computer. I'm one of the old school people. I was got to get on a computer, phone, you know. That's when I think around the time that smartphones were starting to come out, screens and stuff on phones. So the internet started being more accessible through the phone. So I started looking up stuff on YouTube. And the funny thing is, um, I would say the universe, because I was open to the seventh dimension, mentally wise, I was seeing things that from other timelines, I would say. I was seeing a lot of different stuff. So it's hard for your average 3D individual to be able to say, oh, I would tell you, I would open my phone and the universe had something waiting for me at that moment. A specific video, and because I've always been sensitive to energy and people, I became more aware of it. So when I heard people talk on a video, I could feel if it was real or not. So I was being attracted to videos, and I wasn't born with the skill of reading or writing, so I couldn't read or write properly. So I tried to read articles, and I couldn't understand myself. When people read to me, I could feel the truth. I could feel what was right, and that was proven through school. I went to school, and I remember this very adamant in elementary school. You know, I'm sitting with 7 other students on a table, on a round table, and we're trying to solve a group question. We had 6 or 8 questions we had to solve as a group, and they read the questions, and everybody wrote their answers. Everybody on the table got the answers wrong, other than me. I got them all right. And I had the smartest individual on the table with me. And he goes to the teacher, how's it possible that the dumbest person in class gets them all right? At the time, I didn't know what it meant or what it was. I was just hurt. But today I understand that it was the energy that they were communicating through that I felt and answered the questions.
Wow.
Um, and a lot of that information comes through the presence of that energy. I was just the universe wanted me to hear people communicate, and that's another reason why all my communication with individuals has to be verbal, because texting, there's a disconnect, and they're purposely trying to disconnect you from people, because the less you communicate with people verbally, the more disharmony your body is. And when you're communicating with people, you're sharing energies, you're flowing, and what happens is it allows healing for you, it allows healing for them, and it allows you to become aware of energies and frequencies that you don't carry within yourself. So every time we're attracted to people, it doesn't matter what we're attracted, it could be their looks, their smarts, or this or that. It's an energy that we're attracted to. It's not
Right.
their
I
sexual
agree.
body, it's not their
Right.
brain, it's not their looks, it's not their
Right.
shape, it's nothing. It's an energy that they're attracted to, and you don't know. But we use our minds to look at it as a shape of a body, or their
Right.
image of their face, or their hair, or etc.
Right. Right. And but
Well,
I would say the same is true for the opposite. The same thing repels you, no matter how beautiful they are, how handsome they are. If their energy is not of a good vibration to you, it will repel you.
correct, correct.
Right. That makes
Uh,
a lot of sense. But I feel like that there's a fine line with that, with the verbal communication for me that I've noticed in the past few years, and it's only amplifying more and more, that I have to be careful who I talk to verbally if I can help it. I mean, sometimes you have to call the light company and tell them that the power went out, and you have to talk to whoever answers. But I'm saying, like with friends and family, I've noticed that certain people drain me and they're energy vampires, but not through text. Like you said, texting is different. So I can text them, but I can't have a audio conversation with them because it's too much. And I noticed that they only call when their life's blowing up and they want to feed, and they don't listen to any of the advice, and then they do the exact same thing even that I warned them not to do. Then they come back, and it's like a cycle. And so now I've taught myself through trial and error, okay, don't answer that. And not to be rude, but to protect myself, because I have to. I mean, who's
yes.
going to protect you if you don't protect you?
No, 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 of course. And especially in times when we're going through changes and stuff, there's more reason why we should push people away, or, put our boundaries. But at the end of the day, that's what we need to do, is set boundaries. And instead of trying to avoid somebody or not wanting to speak to them, this is where the most challenging is for any individual when it comes to doing their shadow work. Or, it's dealing with that person in front of you, no matter how bad, no matter how, learning to be able to communicate with a person that's stubborn, hard-headed, this, that, except whatever you want, obstacle, alcoholic,
Right.
anything that you want. There's a reason why these people are put in front of us.
Mm.
And it's because, and in our families, it's because one day when we're centered and we got to a point that we could be honest, 100% honest with that individual, and be able to share, you look, I understand that you're going through some problems. I don't have a problem listening, but I do have a problem when you start repeating yourself, or I do have a problem when you become firm. If you wish for me just to sit here for a few minutes and listen to you vent, I don't have a problem, but let me know. If you want me to share some advice, I'll share some advice. But now I've learned that sometimes people don't want to hear your advice because they're not ready to hear us. So
You're
now
right.
what I do sometimes, I just listen to them. I
Hmm.
just allow them to vent. But then I have a limit to how much they can vent with me. So for example, I'm not going to allow a person to vent with me for 2 hours when I could just give them 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or I'll even give a person an hour just to be able to share back and forth, depending on the individual, depending on where the person's at. If I see the person is just straight, I'll share a few things, boom, time to move on. But again, it's boundaries. And then what happens is they'll stop coming. They
Right.
won't show themselves. They'll think about it. Oh, is this something that I need to really ask him? And they'll think about it. Oh, no, okay. And I even tell them, ask yourself before you even come to me. Ask, should I go talk to him? Should I go walk at the beach? Should I go do this? Let me walk it off and then go talk. I said, because you could clear off a lot of it when you go hiking or go to the beach or just go relaxing. And so you'll burn through that stuff, because we're all doing it naturally.
Right.
There's not something that you have to specifically go, it's just consciously aware that it's happening,
Hmm.
instead of throwing other stuff into the picture of the pie. We
Right.
have pain, we want to hide it with medicine.
Mm.
Maybe deal with the pain. breathe through it, accept it, allow it, allow it to heal, and then release it, let it go, and watch the pain dissipate a little bit at a time. At least that's what I noticed with me. I've had pains that were here. Now they're, very minute. They still come and go as times, but there's they're a lot less. There was a point in my time I couldn't walk, I couldn't jump. If I was walking 2 blocks, it was 2 blocks too many that I walked. Today, I could walk 4 miles, painless. And if I have pain, sometimes within the first mile, the pain start dissipating and disappearing. I'll have a knee pain or a hip pain, and it's like, oh, it's stiff. And a lot of that stiffness is sometimes fear of moving forward. But as we move forward and take that challenge, I'm going to work through this pain, or guess what? The pain goes away. Better I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I mean, when you trust and believe and allow, things just happen in the oddest ways sometimes.
Right. And you brought up a good point of ask yourself. I think we've been programmed a lot to give our power away and think that the answers are everywhere except in here. Well, in here, really.
Right.
And we're just seeking. And I did that too for a long time. And something like the protection thing that you mentioned, the same thing happened to me. Something is always protecting me, and something kept calling me back in here. And that's a good point for everybody to remember that. And we forget, even still I forget. And you just have to keep reminding each other and ourselves. And did you lose friends, relationships, family, and not even just lose, but did they change during your awakening?
Well, I had never had really friends. I would say I had acquaintances, people I knew, people I might have thought they were friends, growing up. But when I became more aware, awake, I pushed a lot of people away, especially when I started talking about these kind of stuff that I was sensing, feeling. People were like, "You're becoming religious," or "You're preaching," and it wasn't that. It was like I was seeing all these coincidences, deja vu's, and patterns, and I was like, "Hey, this guy did this, and that happened. Oh, this, and that happened on this.
Yeah,
he said this, and money came up, and then I was shown my life of why I've always had. I've never needed anything. I've always had money. I needed money. I wanted this. I wanted that. And things would just manifest. They've always had my whole life.
Me too.
But I thought I was just lucky. I have a great family, great kids. I have cars. I have toys. I've, wandered and took a lot of things for granted. Didn't appreciate things. I wasn't grateful. But it was because of the disconnect that I had. There was always something missing. So these friends, I felt that they were using me most of the time. Everybody wanted something from me.
Yeah.
I would go on trips and everybody would want to go with me because I had the toys, I had this, but nobody would want to pitch in.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't rich in that aspect where I had the money to pay for everything. I might have had it sometimes, but the way I was shown is I could spend all this money on one trip, or I could have everybody pitch in that was going, and I could go not one, but I could go in 2, 3, 4, 5 trips
Right.
with my money.
Mm-hmm.
And if people could go on different, people could go every trip with the money that they have.
More teamwork, reciprocity.
Yeah. So I had friends who were like, no, well, you're paying for it anyways. Why should I go? You have a house already you're paying for. Why should I pitch in? If I go or don't, you already paid for it anyways. So I just started pushing people away and told them, never mind, I'll just go myself.
People started showing themselves who they really were.
Yeah. And the people that had money and they would step up and, be part of it. But the spiritual part, as I was preaching or communicating, I had even religious people walk away from me and tell me, I'm done with you. I will never be your friend again.
Wow.
And these are hardcore religious individuals.
And
Because
what was their reasoning?
They said that no one man can make a difference. I said, you, out of anybody, is going to tell me that no one man, you that are religious.
Wow.
And he was like, and when I said that, I said, I'm going to tell you, any one man on this planet can make a difference, because the moment that person changes, everything around him changes. And I said, I told him about the ripple, the pebble in the lake, and drop that pebble and how it sends ripple. I said that one person is going to cause ripples. I said, you don't even see it. I said, but it's going to change everything. I said, all it takes is one person to change, and it has to change from inside. It's not like you go out and change something. No, you change something within yourself. And sure enough, within weeks, 2 weeks to be exact, he started talking to his friends, our friends, or people that we knew, and started talking about me, but in a good way. Where before, all my friends would talk about me in a bad way. I was always the talk of the town, but it wasn't always the good thing.
Positive.
Yeah.
Did your marriage change? How did your wife react to all of this? Because she knew 3D Rich, not awakened.
I would say kind of the same thing as my friends. There was things that, because she's religious, I wouldn't say she's religious either, because she's not. But she grew up in, even if I was grown up in a religious family, she was growing up in a real serious religious family.
Okay.
My family wasn't serious. They would go on Sundays because, it's part of the culture, I would say, my parents. But I would say with her, it's been an up and down. And this is the hardest part to share with anybody, even just anybody in general. Because at the time I didn't realize what was going on, but you're not actually dealing with the same person every time. And there was days that she was all part of it, understanding, caring. And there was days that she was totally against it. Don't care. And then because it wasn't her, it was a lot of my own energies reflecting or bouncing off her, my own anger, my own frustration, my own trying to express or teach somebody something that they weren't ready for, the repercussions behind it.
Right.
And then my own fears being healed during those traumas, which brought all that confrontation up. And once that trauma, my trauma was healed, that confrontation was brought back up. And then I see this different person. It's like, whoa, this ain't the person I married. There's a whole other person. Like, what? And it was my own fear that brought up my worries about other people, and the same thing with my wife. And even my fears of sharing information that I shared with my friend, and then having him react that way. It was a fear of mine that he did what he did. It had nothing to do with him. It was me. And that reaction caused them, but he's always been the same person with me. Now he's like, can't stop talking about you and this stuff that you say and share, like when people are ready to receive. And,
what was that conversation like, you coming out to your wife? What did you say?
Well, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the basic stuff is, trying to share the spiritual, but when it comes down and dirty to what really goes on, I had to be 100% honest of who I was. And I wasn't the most honest person, faithful person, loving person, I was a guy. Or
Well, not just a guy. That's unfair, because a lot of us, it doesn't matter if you're male or female.
Well, it doesn't matter, but I think there's subconscious things that we don't know, even our partners don't know, and our families, that they're here purposely pushing us to do things. So me, myself, I feel that I was a little bit of a scaredy cat. I was more of a crybaby. I was afraid of fighting. I didn't want to fight, being a kid. I got abused a lot, mentally, verbally. And when I look back to all this stuff, I'm grateful that all this stuff happened to me, because it brought an awareness, an understanding of why these things are happening today. And with my wife, this awareness made me understand her a little bit better at times. But there's times where your mind is just blank and there's nothing, you're just reacting to the energies that are in the room or
Right.
being,
Yeah.
and it's like, what's going on? But I've been on this journey for a good 8 years now. And the first 5 years, I didn't understand what was happening because I was being shown things and then cut off and shown something else. And it's like an accelerated process.
So when you were first shown something, did you tell her right away, or were you trying to understand in your own mind what's going on?
I was sharing with her a lot of stuff. And because
As it was happening, you were telling her?
yeah, and I was getting all these repercussions and blowbacks, and sometimes it was a beautiful thing and other times it was nasty. I mean, the exact opposite. As bad as you could think, as good as you could think.
Yeah.
And that's and the word bipolar comes up, but it wasn't her, it was my energy causing that. Because I would say, if people didn't understand what the Twilight Zone, the movie, the series, every day you wake up and then it seems like you enter the Twilight Zone or whatever. Well, that's what my life became those 5 years. It wasn't your average 3D, you walk out, you see people, you see this. I could walk out a day and I'll see nothing but women everywhere. I would walk out another day, nothing but Chinese people everywhere. I walk out another day, nothing but black people out there. I would walk out another day and it was nothing but men. And it was like, what is going on? And I was being shown that I was jumping timelines because I was healing different things about myself in these different timelines because they would affect me in different ways. Sometimes jealousy would come up, sometimes this would come up, sometimes fear about walking into, say, a group of men, that were, say, gay, or a group of men that were angry and violent, and having to be around this or be around a lot of women and this and having to bring balance within my own vessel because all those people had, again, all these energies that they're carrying, and me having to enter these places while I'm going through changes was a challenge. And then as I understood that, the same thing happened with my family, my wife. It's the more I seen all this stuff happening, I had to express myself in all these different Twilight Zones to my wife. And I had these reactions happen or these outcomes or scenarios. And they were teaching me how to react at the time and then turn that into responding and learning how to create. And because my fears were creating the outcomes, and then how to learn to redirect my fears and creating my positive outcomes or my desires out of my disharmony, and seeing those changes in those realities. I was like, whoa.
Has she changed? Is she different now?
Oh yeah, again, depend on where I'm at energetic wise. So if I'm, say, for example, having a bad day, I might run into my old wife that has more of a attitude or doesn't understand, because that my energy is kind of like that right now. Like I'm trying to heal still
Like a
aspects of
reflection?
what I would say layers, yes, layers of my own energy. You know how every layer might get thinner and
Right.
thinner and thinner. So, for example, I'm at 3 years ago, we had a blow up that we're separated, we're done, that's it, we're not gonna, and then universe brought us back together. Today we would have the same blow up, but instead of we're done with this, that blow up energetic wise would be huge, but chaos wise is not as chaotic anymore. So what happens is we're able to heal that difference of energy within hours, or maybe within some of them could be within minutes. I noticed just, and even we were talking about earlier, being things thrown at us, energetic wise, and being able to move through them without having. So I feel that yes, she's changed, but because of what we are going through, the universe puts things in their field, or we, our own energy, our own field energy, puts things in them to react a certain way towards us to see if we're going to be triggered. And once we are truly in that harmonious area, then the closest people to us will stop doing it, because their spirit souls will realize that there's nothing that they can do to trigger us anymore. So
Okay, so she's like your gym coach, your training coach, like Rocky. You're Rocky,
yes.
and
Well,
she.
honestly, I would say all our family, that's what they are. Our training coach to the world. And when we learn to get past our family and our differences, and for some reason, alcoholic keeps coming in because a lot of people deal with alcoholic stuff. Just remember that alcoholic is you. No matter if you've never taken a drink in your life, that alcoholic is you. And there's a reason why that alcoholic individual is in your life. There's something you need to work through for yourself, learning to accept that, learning that maybe you're not an alcoholic now, but if you would have took a wrong turn, that could have been you. There's so many different aspects of why that person's in our lives.
Yeah, personally, with that, not necessarily alcoholism, but with addictions, I've
Yes.
noticed that when I find myself judging, and we do it subconsciously, like sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it, and then you catch yourself, you're like, whoa, I'm doing that. You think that you're so above doing that, and then you find yourself thinking that way, and it's shocking at first, but then I started realizing how the pattern of me judging these people and not agreeing with their addiction was a reflection of my addictions. And it made me look at, okay, what am I addicted to? At food, comfort eating, sugar, whatever. And it could be the simplest things like sugar, or whatever, or a friend, or having to talk to my sister every day at 3 p.m. Why didn't you call me? Well, that's an addiction, right? So, and I started noticing, oh, and you're right. I stopped seeing those people. Now I see them and I'm like, I get it, because we're human. Nobody's going to be perfect. And I don't know why we demand perfection from ourselves and from everybody outside.
And I'll share this, even with my wife, there's been, I would say, because of how I was feeling, in my week would be more days that I would feel kind of bummed out because of what we were going through in the past compared to today. I feel more days of positives, through our relationship. As I learned to let go of the attachments and the outcomes and just allow for things to just unravel on their own, I start noticing that everybody starts becoming more happy. They feel free.
You're not resistant. You're not
Yes.
Fighting.
Yes. And it's like it's even like if her soul is more grateful that I didn't question it or ask or demand or expect certain things from her.
Yeah.
That when she comes back, like she's more caring, more open to receive, and and yeah, sometimes when people are talking, they tend to always talk about the negative. Well, one of the things that I'm learning that I came to understand today is let's get past communicating and sharing our negative stories.
Right.
Let's get down to sharing our good stories.
Yes.
The positive stuff, because all that helps is influence more positive in that relationship, in that reality that you're in with whoever your relationship is with.
You grow that energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more you expand and grow exactly within those positive. So I try to share more positive. Right now, again, I haven't done this in a while, so there's a lot of energies flowing, and just learning to try to stay balanced and realizing what we're sharing, how we're sharing information, is very critical, especially when we're communicating regarding partners, friends, and family, and they're not present. It's another thing that I've been shown is too many people talk about other people, and then they wonder why people talk about them, and these energies are constantly out there. It's learning that if we have anything to share or express ourselves about a individual, we should be expressing it to them, not on social media, not on videos where everybody can see. That's between you and that individual. not the world. And right now I'm sharing just little scenarios, but if I was talking about her, oh, I don't like the way she does this, that, that's talking about somebody, that's judging somebody. When we, in reality, don't understand what they've been through for them to act the way they act, or show us what they show us, or what part of that is a reflection of yourself. And learning to let go of that.
One, remembering that they're just like you, everybody's doing their best, and not everybody is going to respond to a situation like you would, because they're not you. They don't know what you know. They haven't lived what you lived. And like you said, you can't know someone else's subconscious thoughts or patterns or fears, anything. Have you experienced much purging lately?
Are you there? Testing.
Yeah, you froze a bit. Have you, oh, we lost your picture. There you are. Have you experienced much purging lately?
I would say yes. Actually, all year, this year, um, I've gone through some deep purging since, I would say, the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And even though I've done that much purging, because my body's lost all, I went literally to bone, lost all my weight. And now I had to recover. And 2018 was my year of recovery. In 2019, I thought I was going to be ready to rock and roll the beginning of 2019. But I wasn't. My body was still purging, and healing and shifting and learning to let go of still layers upon layers upon layers of traumas that we've gone through and experienced. And even family lineages of traumas that we've, at least personally, I have gone through and cleared.
Have you experienced anybody in your family going through their own awakenings?
My oldest son is going through, I would say, every individual in my family. Actually, I would say, because of what I've unlocked within my vessel, every individual that hears my voice or has communication with me is automatically going to cause those individuals to start shifting and awakening. I've noticed this because things started speeding up with everybody I was talking to. I've noticed, depending on the person, if they're in a state of negativity, their life will tend to spiral down. If a person's in a space of, curious and wanting to know more stuff, their life spirals to opening more of consciousness and become more aware of what's going on. So the next time I see them again, they're more awake.
So like a catalyst.
Yes. Well, I know I'm a catalyst. And I've learned to have my energy more in harmony so I don't trigger as many people as before. I could walk around people won't get triggered as easy.
You turn your volume down?
I would say something like that. It's not so much turning it down. What it is not allowing other people's openness to be reflected back and causing problems or whatever, because as much as our energy tends to grow, there's disharmony within ourselves, and depending on the individual, how open they are, that little disharmony within ourselves could be huge for them.
Oh, yeah, I see what
you know and when my own energy gets reflected back to me through those people and not reacting to it and responding to it with kindness and love, it doesn't affect me. I'm able to continue my day or my experience or my whatever I'm going through at that moment.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to somebody watching that may be dealing with a family member, a wife, a child that is having a negative reaction in their face, how would you suggest that they handle that?
The most difficult part about any judgment on another person is not so much to focus on that other person, is to focus more on you. What does this why is this person in my life? Because, or why am I experiencing this with this individual? Being my son, my mom, whatever. You know, my parents were alcoholics. um, my parents argued all the time. My parents yelled all the time. But I noticed that things started happening to me, and it kept happening to other people. I had friends that would be angry at everybody, but then they change the way they are with you. And I was like, that same person used to be angry with me all the time. People had chip on their shoulders. And I realized that it wasn't them, it was us. And they were showing me that whatever the situation is with the other person, some part of it, some part of our energy fields is emitting to that person. If it's an alcoholism, even hitting, it's not them, it's us. It's something inside our body that's showing that to us. And
Right.
learning to accept it, love it, appreciate it, acknowledge that that was you, or is you, or has been done to you, because it's only being shown because it wants to bring up the trauma. It's trying to bring up the trauma. So you're trying to heal the trauma, and what we call PTSD.
So how would you react in the moment to that person? How would you react in that moment?
I wouldn't react. I would just allow. If that person is venting, allow that person to vent. You know.
Your screen is frozen.
Because I've had, and again, there's a boundary issue. Sometimes there's a boundary that you need to share with that person, no matter how drunk. For example, I'll give you another example. I had a family member, a drunk family member. His children are afraid to talk to him. Grown children. I said, you know what? They're afraid that he might kill them, this, that, etc., etc. I said, I'm going to tell you right now. I told these kids, I said, when he only has that power because you're allowing that power to come and influence you, then that will happen. But if you stand up to him and you show him that you're here because you love him, because you appreciate him, you understand everything that he needs to do, and release him and let him go from the whatever he was here to show you, teach you, get you to understand, just love him and appreciate him for who he is. Mock my words, he will change. He will not act with you. He would respect you. He will talk to you, communicate. That same kid comes up to me. He yells at his dad now. He talks this, that. Now he stood up to him. Now his dad's like, oh. Now his dad walks around. His dad comes up, is like, I've seen him at parties where he's not drinking.
Wow.
Where he's always drinking. I've never seen him in years not drunk. I don't care what time, morning, do it night. Wow. Now I walked recently to parties and he's not drinking at all. Now, does he still drink? Yes. The difference is now he's trying to respect his family. Well, that drunk that's on the floor, that addict, that's you. And until you realize that that is you and you learn to appreciate and communicate, how would you want somebody to treat you if you were in that shoes right now?
Okay.
That's what you're being called to do. Open up your heart to that individual. Take care of that individual. Yes, compassion. But again, with boundaries.
Right.
Most people want,
safely.
Yes. Most people want to. I had another individual come up to me and says, Richard, he lost his job. I said, well, maybe if you help and give, maybe you receive more. So this guy goes around and starts giving all his food away and starts giving it to all the homeless people and goes to school, picks up all his food, and homeless people start throwing the food at him and start doing this and start doing that. We didn't ask for this. I said, exactly. Did you hear what he just said? He didn't ask for it, so why are you doing it? Boundaries. There's people that do want it. There's people that don't. People that are ready to receive, people that are not. It's
Yeah.
all it's all
Mhm.
about balance and learning who, when not to, when yet,
Yeah.
all of that is part.
Yeah. It's a
And
fine
trust me,
dance that you
yeah,
can only learn through experience, really, because somebody can
yes,
tell you, but when you live it, holy shit, it's totally different.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's so many different levels depending on where you're waking up in that level. I
Yeah.
mean, you learn as you go. First is this, and then is so that's why me trying to share something that I know that I experienced, say with my wife, and it has to be done this way, and there's no way to go from A to Z
Yeah.
and jump that way. You have to go through the steps. So
Yeah.
there's things that she has to, now if I remember those steps, I could share step B to her and say, you know what, maybe if you take step B, this will help you to let go, release, and move on. But I have to talk to her from a 3-day perspective. And trust me, there's
Mm.
a reason why my family is none of them are awake, because I needed to learn how to talk to your normal average person.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
How could I
Everything.
communicate to the public if I can't
Yeah.
communicate to my own family?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's a helper. Thank you so
Yes,
much for sharing all your experience and your wisdom with us, and we hope to have you back soon. So for now,
definitely.
we really appreciate your energy and your experiences, because everybody is different, but we're all the same at the same time.
Yes, yes, yes. We all
Thank
come
you.
from one place, it's source.
Yeah.
So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being present. Thank you for allowing. And it's all about trust and allow that inner guidance, and be present. Um, Peace, love, joy, and abundance to each and every one of you guys. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.